So, are aliens our best shot at solving climate change and a bunch of our other problems? And is that what the three body problem is suggesting? I'm not quite sure, but that's what I want to talk about today. This is another episode of Alan Drinks Whiskey and Talks About Books. I've got some Woodford Reserve. It's summer break, so there's a little bit more Woodford Reserve in there than there might normally be. And I've got the three body problem. Let's jump in because this book is insane and I loved it. Hmm. Good bourbon. So, let's talk a little bit about a brief synopsis of the book. I kind of knew this because Landon's career was crazy, and I actually finished this book a while ago. So this is kind of what I recall what happens in it. There's a lot that happens in it, but moral of the story is aliens are coming and they want our resources or our planet. We're not quite sure what their motivation is yet, but they are on their way. And also, we sort of invited them. So it takes place mostly in China. And we've sent some signals out into space. And at this point in the book, not really knowing there's aliens, just kind of sending out there, seeing what happens. So a message gets sent out, and then we get one back from these beings called the Trisolarians. And the Trisolarians, or at least one of them, sends back a message that says, "Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. This world has received your message. I am a pacifist in this world. It is the luck of your civilization that I am the first to receive your message. I am warning you. Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. There are tens of millions of stars in your direction. As long as you do not answer, this world will not be able to ascertain the source of your transmission. But if you do answer, the source will be located right away. Your planet will be invaded. Your world will be conquered. Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer." So, but unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for the human race, depending on what kind of view you look at it, a woman named Yi is the one that gets that transmission, and actually she sends a message back. She spent her childhood, she watched her father get tortured during the Chinese Cultural Revolution. She's been forced to live on a military base for her entire life. She's kind of over how everything's going. So she sends a message back to them that kind of invites the aliens on the doorstep. And it says, "Come here. I will help you conquer this world. Our civilization is no longer capable of solving its own problems. We need your force to intervene." And this sets up the rest of, well, it's a trilogy. I haven't gotten into book 2 yet, but it sets up the rest of the trilogy. And the Trisolarians are coming from a very interesting place because they come from a world that orbits 3 stars. That is the three body problem in the book. Because basically, Trisolarians have their civilization get burnt up every so often because of the weird orbital mechanics that they have going on. And they're trying to find a new place to live. And Earth just might be it. To kind of ascertain the intelligence of Earthlings, or I don't really know why they do this, they send a game to Earth that basically allows people to try to solve the three body problem and figure out clues and stuff like that. And so that's a subplot that goes on through there too. They also send like 2 hydrogen atoms to mess with our science so we can't make any progress. Basically, the atoms that they control somehow mess up experiments and things like that, so we can't ascertain what is real. In the meantime, there's a select few people on Earth that know that there are these aliens coming and what their intentions are, and it divides into factions. The Adventists seek the destruction of the human race. We've messed up too much, and we are unredeemable. Come on, Trisolarians, wipe us out, do better. The Redemptionists are hopeful that they can create a solution to the three body problem, and maybe we can all get together. And then there's the survivors who want to help the Trisolarians and that their descendants will live, but the rest of humanity is punished and killed. So, like, don't blame me for climate change or politics or anything like that. As long as I live and my family lives, you can do whatever you want with everyone else. So, those factions are all within the ETO, the Earth Trisolaris Organization. And at its core, it's made up of people that are frustrated with world affairs and think that things must be shaken up. Environmental concerns are at the top of reasons why, but also political struggles. It's really important to note that this book takes place in the backdrop of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And a lot of the characters are pretty upset about how that went down. There's a lot of scientists that feel like they've been stymied in their progress and that their concerns are not listened to. The main character, Yi, she reads as a child, well, teenager, the book Silent Spring and becomes very interested in the environmental message that is going on and the environmental concerns that are being ignored as China transitions into a global power. That's one of the reasons why she says, "Hey, aliens, I'll help you out." Um, but at its core, no matter what you are in terms of those factions of the ETO, they basically see the ETO or the Trisolarians or the ETO sees the Trisolarians as a chance to more or less reset things and try again. I'm not sure how well that's going to work, but we'll see. So, the problems of the species. Both humans and Trisolarians face environmental concerns. Now, humanities are caused by themselves. Climate change is real. It's really no secret or no, like you should be able to pick up on it because our author, Zixin Liu, and I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. I was going to look it up, but I forgot to. But Zixin Liu, he uses, I'm going to guess, the book Silent Spring for reasons, highlighting the environmental concerns. This is something that concerns everyone, not just people in China, not just people in the United States, but everyone. It's a big problem. We have to solve it. Trisolarian problems are also environmental, but it's because they live on a planet that orbits 3 stars. And every now and again, they get too close to a sun and they burn up. They have to dehydrate themselves so they can survive to the next part of good living, basically. It's. I kind of wondered how their civilization even adapted, and maybe it's something that is addressed in the next couple of books. But it's really super interesting. The Trisolarians, they take to space because they have to, but it raises kind of an interesting question because we have billionaires in our world, Elon Musk, that are looking to space and Mars, but why? When they could put their resources to helping solve climate change and world hunger and poverty here, now, instead of just getting a lifeboat and going to the next planet over. We can fix these things, but we need to work together to do it. When reading the passages of the destruction caused by the 3 suns, and that usually takes place within the scope of the video game that is being sent, it's hard not to think of climate change as the world literally burns and it becomes overbearingly hot and people have to dehydrate themselves because there will be no water and they can't live. It kind of rings a bell with our world as we're seeing bigger and more frequent storms, as we see droughts that are causing water shortages, and maybe the next wars are going to be fought over water. So maybe it's no coincidence that we are looking to space for salvation because we've messed up Earth. Do we flee for the stars, or do we hope that aliens come and solve our problems? Or maybe there's a third solution, which is we solve our problems. And I think that's what's going to happen in the next couple of books. But again, I'm not so sure. I'll read them and get back to you. I thought it was really interesting that much of the three-body problem takes place along the backdrop of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. There's a lot of footnotes in here, and I learned quite a bit. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert. I just was like, oh, wow, this is something that I never knew. So it's a really interesting book, and it'll be interesting to see, because they're turning this into a Netflix series, how Netflix does that. Because it's kind of important context that you need to know. Within that context, some characters are punished for speaking out and placing themselves above their station, but also the plot moves forward because of their actions. Like Yi is not supposed to send a message to an alien civilization, but she does. One Chinese scientist invites the aliens, as said, and the aliens respond to say, "Don't trust us." On the flip side, you have individuals that are speaking on behalf of not only species, but planets. And basically saying, don't trust us or come. It's that individual pushing themselves above the group. And even beyond those individual actions, A small group of people are fighting over the fate of the human race. The ETO is not a huge organization. I got the impression that it was a couple hundred people, but they are controlling the fate of the human race, including alien messages that have been sent back, not releasing to us to the public and things like that. So there's a lot of like individual things going on, but that question remains: can we solve our own problems? And if you look at climate change, combating it's going to be hard, but it is doable. We can invest in renewable energies. We can make an effort to do that. We can try to implement more sustainable farming. We can give subsidies to plant-based meat products and make those cheaper, more affordable, and give them a wider market share. Things like that. It will take individual efforts, but also you need global coordination in order to do these things. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that it can't happen. In fact, I think that's one of the main purposes of science fiction is that, like, yeah, this stuff is going to be hard, but there could be benefits too. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence that Silent Spring is put in this book. The environmental message is hard to miss in the three body problem. But there's always that catch. I really liked this quote about the nature of humanity, and good science fiction always deals with the nature of humanity. And it's written in the book: it is possible that the relationship between humanity and evil is similar to the relationship between the ocean and an iceberg floating on its surface. Both the ocean and the iceberg are made of the same material, but the iceberg seems separate is only because it is in a different form. In reality, it is but a part of the vast ocean. It was impossible to expect a moral awakening from humankind itself, just like it was impossible to expect humans to lift off the earth by pulling up their own hair. To achieve moral awakening required a force outside the human race. There are people that believe that we are inherently bad and evil, and that is why things are so messed up. Those characters that share this viewpoint, I tend to be a little bit more optimistic. I don't think that we are evil and that we're just in a different form, like the iceberg and ocean analogy. But that's the main thesis, is that we're so far involved, we're so invested in the current state of affairs that something from outside of us is going to have to come to refocus our efforts and make things possible. So, is humanity evil? And this is not an unusual question for science fiction. It's basically one of the central plot points in Frankenstein, the first science fiction novel ever. I tend to not think so, but if we willingly pollute our own planet at the expense of other species, who knows? If we decide to deny the evidence and continue to pollute the earth and make it unlivable for people, if we knowingly take actions that are going to create climate refugees, maybe we are. I don't know. And so then, if we are we beyond the point of saving? Do we deserve redemption? Have we gone so far that we are beyond redemption, beyond hope? Or is there hope for us still? Can an outside force, whether that be aliens or God or whatever, come in and correct us? But also, why should we assume that an outside presence would be good? There's a lot of characters in this book that assume that when the aliens come here, they will help us, even though it's pretty obvious that they're not going to. But again, the definition of help is pretty loose in this case. It's more of a they'll help kind of cleanse the world and make it all better. I don't know. So Lou also writes in this book at one point, let's turn the kindness we show towards the stars to members of the human race on Earth and build up the trust and understanding between the different peoples and civilizations that make up humanity. Instead of putting our faith in something that's beyond the stars or that we can't actually see, is not tangible, what if we put our faith in each other and work to build things up? What if we work together to combat climate change? What if we work together to ensure that everyone around the world had equal rights? And what if we worked to ensure that everyone had access to free healthcare and education and food and water and shelter? And yes, these are pie in the sky ideas that are really hard, but it'd be worth it, I think. And I think we have the capacity to do it. We have the capacity to make that happen within our arms. We just actively choose again and again to not, because they're hard. And then we get a stalemate, and then we're left looking for the stars to see if anyone can help us out. I think there's a happy medium somewhere in there. So, in order to overcome a global problem, there has to be a global solution. I think a really good book to pair with this will be The Ministry for the Future, which I actually read a little while ago as well, which deals with kind of a fairly realistic view of combating climate change and how that can actually happen, but without aliens. And is a really good book, really good speculative science fiction set kind of in the near future. And I think the message of Ministry of the Future is that it's our problem and it's going to require our solution. We can't wait for something else to happen because it's not going to magically go away on its own. And if we don't think things through, who knows what's going to happen. What I really liked about Ministry for the Future is that it didn't just focus on the scientific aspects that needed to happen to combat climate change, but also the cultural aspects, including creating a new religion, which is kind of what they do in Three Body Problem around the aliens. Those different factions from the ETO kind of almost have a religious fervor about the aliens and what they're going to mean for us. In Ministry of the Future, they float the idea of creating a religion in which the god is Earth. You worship it and you want to take care of it. So it wasn't just, hey, we need to do these super scientific things to do it. It was a cultural shift as well. It's going to be a lot of work. And in these books, it points out that the divisions of the past don't make sense anymore. We're in a global society. Just because somebody believes a different god than you or has a different skin color, you have to look past that because they're a person. And this is a problem that affects every person on Earth. Now, granted, it's easier than said and done. But as Three Body Problem points out, in the grand scheme of things, humans are bugs, and we can be squashed, or we can rise above and do great things. So, thanks for watching this episode of Alan Drinks Whiskey and Talks About Books. I really hope you enjoyed it. I liked making it, or at least I liked treating the Woodford Reserve. And I got some plans for the channel over the summer here. I'm thinking about doing about a Shakespeare book, a Shakespeare play, I should say, per month. Starting with Richard II, I believe it is. And then also, I thought I'd do something crazy, and I finished Andy Weir's book, Hail Mary, like 2 weeks ago. And I thought, hey, maybe I could do an episode about a book that I really liked and not wait months before I actually record it. So keep an eye out for that, too. So that's kind of what I got going on. I like making these. It's just time gets away from me. So hopefully you're reading some good books. Hopefully you're rising everybody up. Hopefully you're drinking some good stuff. Again, thanks for watching. Happy reading.